Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Back in February of this year, I put together this Penjing as part of Gail's Landscape Challenge. I planted my $50 challenge tree on the island. Also, I planted a cutting that Derek gave me, and it's time to work on it once again. Kubu Island is located on a giant salt flat, so I have the salt flat area over on the left-hand side and the rocky island on the right-hand side. And Kubu Island is famous for their giant Boabab trees, so I planted the Ming Aralias and I'll be styling them to look like Boababs. I've left the Ming Aralias to grow all summer to get the roots established in the pot. The Ming Aralias have a very upright growth habit. They don't, send horizontal branches. Everything tends to grow upright. So to style them to look like Boabab trees is very difficult. I've got to prune them back short and hopefully get some branches coming out the side. So I think I'll be doing quite a severe pruning to them today to get the height down. I left these aerial roots on the tree down below. I don't think I need those anymore. Boababs generally don't get aerial roots, so those will be coming off, and I think that's where I'll start. I'll come in here and snip the roots off at ground level. So here I go. There's one. There's the second one. So these are separated from the soil. And then I'll come in up above and prune them off flush with the trunk. And I may have to come in and clean those up. All right, I'll get them cleaned up. Trying to make them fairly flush. There's a bit of a wound on the tree here, but that's all right. Gives it a bit of character. And then I'll snip these little roots off. And there's one out the back. I'll get two. Like that. And I'll just clean up these root hairs here. Okay, that's kind of cleaned the base of the tree up. Now let's look at the overall styling of the tree. I'm going to start with the styling of the main tree. It has a triple trunk here, or maybe even a quadruple trunk, maybe even more. So I think one thing I have to do is get the height down and maybe clean up this branch structure. You can see the tree has a bit of inverse taper because there's so many trunks growing from this one level. So where to start? I think I'm going to start by pruning the height down on some of these tall, vertical trunks. So you can see on this trunk I have a shoot here on the outside, which is good. I have another little shoot above, so I think I'll keep this as my trunk leader and I'll prune this trunk line off here. So here I go. Like that. Taking that off. Now these would grow as cuttings, but I just don't need any more trees at the moment. I've got off of this other little tree, I have some shoots coming up from the root base. And again, I don't need those. I'm just going to keep it 2 trees in the planting. So I'm going to prune those off also, and I'll have to come in and clean them up. So those will come off. And then there's one out the back that I'll have to clean up also. Get rid of that. I may have to come in from here. That out of there, like that, and I'll clean those up. Like that. Clean this one up, and the one out the back. Like that. So that's got the trunk lines cleaned up. There's a stub here I could clean up also. Like that. There's one up here. Kind of keeping my trunk lines fairly clean. It's time to prune up the main tree now. So I have a few small shoots down below, which are good because, you know, I'll probably want the overall height of the tree here. So I'm looking at this trunk line here, which is, you know, fairly big. This one coming up to the side. I do have a shoot on the outside here, which is good. So I'll keep that and prune it off just above that one. And maybe I'll keep the one on the other side also. So we'll come in right here. Here I go. Taking the top off that one. So that gets that height down to something quite nice. This one on the inside here, I think I need something coming forward. So I'll prune just above these leaves that come out the front, taking the height down of this one. Here I go. Like that. And then I've got this tall shoot out the back here. So I'll have to come in, and I'm looking for branching. There's a branch on the front, which I think is my best choice. There's a little bud here, so I'll prune just above that, like that. So that gets this trunk line here a little more compact. I could prune this one back just a bit to a leaf that faces the outside. Back to here. Just to prune that up a bit. Okay, let's do this trunk line next, the one coming off to the right hand side. I've got a shoot on the inside here. Not sure I really want that. It kind of clutters up the space in there. But I'll leave that to the end. I may want to keep it, I'm not sure. I think, is that branch dead here? Yes, it is. I'll prune out this dead branch here. That one didn't survive. And then I think I'll finish pruning up this tree on the right hand side so I can see what's going on here a little better. So I'll just prune the heights down on this tree. Again, I'm looking for leaves that fan outwards, so I've got one coming out the front here and one to the side, so I'll prune just above that. Like that. Taking the top off. And then the one out the back, I don't see any leaves fanning out towards the outside. So in this case, I've got one coming out the back. I'll prune it off here, and maybe that'll get reduced even more later on. These sections of the tree are quite vertical and not very compact looking. And if this is the height of my main tree, I want this one shorter, so I may have to hard prune that one back. So now I'm dealing with this trunk line, so I will take off. This one has a branch coming out the back, so I'll take it off just above that to there. That gets that trunk line pruned down. And this little one here, I'll just prune it back in height. Taking the tip off, like that. So next I want to prune down this long trunk at the back here. So let me rotate it around so I can see what shoots I have fanning out the back. Here's the back of this long trunk. I have some branches kind of fanning out here. So I'll prune them back short, and I may have to hard prune this trunk later on if it's still too high, which I have a feeling it will be. There's a dead bit here I can prune out. This one, I have a branch fanning out the back here, so I'll prune it off to here. I have a branch here I can prune back to here. Pruning the tip off that. This one, I have a branch down low So I may want to prune off this vertical one here. So it's kind of fanning out. So I'll look for a good place to cut that. And I may prune that right back. I'll prune it off short for now. And we'll look at the structure of the tree once, you know, all these new shoots are shortened back. There's a dead leaf in here I'll prune out. Now this one coming out the back, I have a horizontal leaf here, so I'll prune the tip off like that. This one can be pruned back to here. Taking the tip off that one, shortening it back. And I've got a long one up here. Let me see what's going on there. I want something fanning out. So back to here. Keeping that leaf that's fanning out to the side. This one going up the top here, I'll just prune this shoot back to there. Okay, let's go back to the front and have a look at it. Here's a look at the two trees now. So I think I definitely have to prune this one back hard. It's just too tall. So I think I'll have to cut the trunk, you know, maybe off to this level, about this height. I've got a bud here. I've got one out the back. So I think that's next, pruning that trunk, hard pruning it back. I'm wondering if I should prune a little higher just in case it dies back. I want to keep this bud alive, so I think I will. I think I'll prune just a little higher to here. So here I go. Like that. I think I've still got to prune this back further. If I imagine, you know, foliage growing in here, it's going to be almost the height of the main tree. I think I've got to prune it back even harder. And I think I'll have to get rid of that curve because I'll have to hard prune it back to a stump, I think, to keep it in proportion. These are, you know, supposed to look like baobabs, so I need short, fat trunks. And it's too tall. So I'm going to go back hard, right to here. Here I go. Big cut. And I'll seal those cuts up with the rubber cement when I'm done. I'm going to step back now and look at the main tree. I have those triple trunks growing up, and I'm wondering if I should reduce it to 2. It'll be a big cut, but I think I've got to look towards the future of these trees, trying to make them look like baobabs. So let's do that. Let's step back and look at some of the options for the main tree. Here's a look at the main tree. So if I were to take out that middle trunk, I could even take off this one, reducing it to like a single trunk, or keep it, this is, you know, more of a branch. I definitely have to keep this trunk line because it flows from the trunk up. This one flows nicely, but the one at the back could be cut off and you wouldn't even really miss it, I don't think. There's just no, you know, space between these trunk lines. It's from the front, it looks like a solid mass. It doesn't look like branching. It just, you know, you see this thickness up top and the skinny trunk. So I think removing that back one would help that. So I think I'll do that. I think that's the best option for this tree, is to remove this third trunk out the back. I'll rotate the tree around to the back here. Oh, it's a big, big cut. The back's pretty good looking on this tree. If I were to make this the front, I would definitely keep this vertical trunk line.
and maybe get rid of the one here. No, that doesn't look good. It flows here. I couldn't do that. It has a bit of a bulge in the trunk here that comes forward. I think that's why I made this the back of the tree. You can see how it bulges out here. It's possible I could keep the 3 trunks and clean up the branch structure here to get a bit of space between these trunks. That might be the best option. Kind of keep this as a side branch, this as a side branch, and develop the main trunk line. Even though it's kind of at the back, but behind these 2 branches. It's a little unconventional. It definitely, flows from this side much, much more. If this were the front of the tree, I'd still have to clean out this growth between these 2 trunks. So maybe I'll start there. So I can prune off this branch here. Like that. Clean this up. There's one on the inside here I can clean up. That makes a bit of space between the 2 trunk lines. There's one on the inside here I could clean out. Get this one out. So now you can see there's some space between here. I could prune off this one. That would give me more space to view the trunk line. I think I'll do that. I think I've got to remove this trunk line. So here I go. I'll remove the little branch first. Prune this one off. That's gone. I'll clean that up. Like that. And then I think I've got to get rid of these little ones too. This one. And possibly this whole trunk line to give more space between the branch and the main trunk here. I think that would help, the tree to fan out so it's not looking so vertical. There has been, a big chop on the tree up here. I think I will remove this. It's a big cut, but I think I need it. I think I need to get some space in there. So here I go. I'm going to chop that back. So I will start by just removing the top of it, and work my way down. There's a few branches coming off it out the back. Get those pruned away also. So now I can see that trunk line a little better, and then I'll come in and try and cut it back. Working my way down. The Ming Aralia it's quite soft wood, so I don't need to use a saw or anything. I can just nibble away at it. It's definitely opening up space in here, which is good. Be careful I don't cut the main trunk here. That's good, yeah. How's it looking? I think it's looking better. Yeah, it cleans it up quite nicely. Now, is that down far enough? Let me see. I may have to take that lump off here. I think I do need to do that. I'll try my branch pruners in here. It'll leave a big scar, but I think the overall styling will be improved. It's looking better. To get in there in the middle. I may have to use a saw to get that middle part out. I have a small Japanese pole saw, but I couldn't find it, so I'm going to try the gouge and just see if that works. Seems to be working quite well. There. This one back to here. There. That's looking much better. It's quite flush now. Here is a look at the tree now. I think it's really opened it up. It's looking much better. Now I think the height back here is too tall, the straight trunk here. I may want to reduce that back. I can take, there's a shoot coming out the front here. I could take it off there, just reducing it a little bit. I think that's my best option for now. Unless I get, some more shoots coming out down below. I don't really have anything to prune back to. So I'll just take the top off. And I'll try and keep this branch, and I've got one out the back. So let me rotate it to the side view here. And then I can come in. Yeah, okay. So right here. Here I go. And not a lot off the top, but it helps. It's a little bit shorter now. I'm having a look at the tree now. Now on this trunk line, you can see I have a branch coming up the inside here, and then I've got this thick one here. So if I were to remove that, I have some good taper. It's, you know, a little risky. I've taken a big cut off this side, and if I take a big cut off this side, but I think there's enough of a live vein coming up here that the tree will be okay. Baobab trees have a lot of taper. They start off thick and they taper quickly, so I think that's a good opportunity to get some nice taper in this branch. So I'm going to do it. So let's rotate it around. It's quite another big cut. So here I go. All right, here goes another big cut. So I'm going to come in on the angle here and prune it off. Don't think I've quite gone deep enough. I'll peel this off first. I can come in a little deeper. Maybe I'll use the scissors on that. I don't want to damage the branch I want to keep. It's working. And I'll come in and clean that up if I can. That's better. Okay. Wow, that's some taper on that branch. Yeah, I think that's quite good though. Now I've got this shoot on the inside here. I think I better get rid of that also. Again, it's kind of cluttering up my trunk lines. So that's coming off. Let's step back and have a look at the tree. Here is a look at the tree from the distance. I think it's much improved. I think it's got a bit better structure to it. The inverse taper isn't quite as noticeable. It's looking much better. And I can see, you know, maybe reducing this tall branch back a bit if something comes out down lower. Kind of shortening that a bit. I think next I need to clean up the root base down here. I kind of put the soil on a little deep because it was a newly planted tree. So I can maybe expose some of the base of the tree a bit more now. I'll come in with my tweezers and just pick away some of the moss around the base. I don't want moss growing up around the trunk of the tree. This is supposed to look like a dry island. And I think exposing, you know, the root base a bit more will again help the tree look more tapered. And I may want to get rid of more of this moss too, giving the planting a drier look. There's that root that I cut off. I can cut that off even deeper. It's sticking up a bit here. So let me cut that back a little deeper. Like that. So the little tree beside it, there's two possibilities. One, it'll, get shoots around the top near the cut point. The other is that the trunk will die off and it'll sucker up from the root base. So I don't know what'll happen there. It's a bit of a gamble, I guess. If it pays off, it's good. If it doesn't, well, if it doesn't, it doesn't. Okay, now I need to get my toothbrush and clean up the root base. So I'll just come in and brush that soil away. There's a lot of green algae on here, which doesn't help to give the tree this island the dry look. So I need to clean that off. So I'll have to get my spray can. I'll just give the root base a wash and a scrub. Getting rid of those algae stains. And I don't know what this is on the trunk. There's kind of like a slice or something there, but I guess that's just the way it grew. Now, the question is, can I expose more of the root base? I think I'm going to have to peel this moss off, and I can always reapply it. It's a nice thin layer of moss. It's not real vigorous because I keep this a little on the dry side. So I'll peel that off. Like that, it came off in one big sheet. Now I can possibly expose a little more of the root base. Well, that's definitely got my soil level down lower. I better take this soil away. So I'm getting the soil level down to a much nicer level. I have done a lot of work on this planting today. Here's what I pruned off. A lot of branches. I've taken out my greenish colored sand, which was in the corner here. I've reduced my soil level. I haven't put the moss back. I think I want like the sand color around the tree, and then maybe just some moss patches within the rocks. And I think that's all. So I'll do that now, kind of the final touches on the landscape. I've got the landscape cleaned up a bit. I'm going to add the sand on the soil surface now, and I'm not going to use the white industrial sand, which is my salt flats like over here. I'm going to use my desert tan color, which is a mixture of white industrial sand and the brown playground sand. All right, here I go with the sand. Now I'll just spray the sand with water to kind of wash it in place. Kind of blend it in a bit. That looks good. And now I'll add some moss. I'm going to add just small pieces of moss. I don't want it looking too green. So I think maybe a little out front here. Now this area out front by the tree is a little boring looking. This area here, it needs something, and I'm just trying to see what. Maybe some small rocks would look good. It's just kind of like a flat spot around the tree that doesn't look very interesting. Let me try and find some little rocks to place around there, sort of echoing the rocks that surround it, but smaller. I think that'll look better. I picked some rocks out of the gravel driveway, ones that I thought had some interest to them and that were maybe the right color. I'm not sure how well I've matched them. Some are a little dark, some are a little light. But I'll try them out and just see what it looks like. If, you know, the concept of having little rocks is worth exploring or not. Occasionally I find a really nice rock in the driveway. One with a lot of texture. One that looks, you know, to scale with the planting. So it's nice to find ones like that. Yeah, it fits in really nicely with the other rocks. I've got some more rocks in place, and I think it really helps. It looks like, you know, the tree's growing out of this rocky island rather than this pocket of soil. So I think it really helps, you know, blend in the whole environment here. I'm very pleased with the rocks placed around. Now, they're not perfect, these rocks. If I can find better ones, I'll replace them. But I think the concept is quite good, having the rocks kind of coming right up to the tree. It doesn't look like, you know, there's a pocket dug out and then the tree planted in it. The tree looks like it's growing out of the landscape. So I think that's a big improvement. It ties the whole composition together. I added these, I don't know what they are, sort of like turfus. I can place a few around the base of the tree. I think that'll help kind of blend it in also, having a few smaller kind of stones around the tree. And these turn white when they dry out, so they blend in much better. Yeah, it makes the landscape go right up to the tree, which is nice. Here is an overall look at my Kubu Island landscape, or Penjing. I think both the tree and the landscape improved a lot today, adding those small stones, a bit of moss, some sand, and the tree is certainly more Baobab looking now. It doesn't look tall and out of scale. It's improved anyway. I'm going to let those cuts dry a bit, and then I'm going to seal them with the rubber cement, and then we'll come in and have a final look at the landscape. I'm going to seal my cuts up now with the rubber cement. So here I go. I'll just apply it to the wounds, and that should keep it sealed so it doesn't dry the wounds out and it heals over nicely. Now I may have to get something to reach in there. A little brush would be good. I don't know. I don't think my finger's small enough to get in there. I'll try my baby finger. I can get most of it. Maybe if it runs down a bit. Oh yeah, that's getting in there nicely. I'll just use the end of my scalpel to kind of, oh, it's covered the wound quite nicely. It dripped down a bit. Okay, and then I'll seal my little one here. It'll be interesting to see what happens to that tree. And I think that's all the big cuts. I'll put one up here. I cut the top off this trunk line. And I think that's it. The rest are just little cuts. So let's fly in now and have a final look at my Kubu Island landscape.
It's time for today's update. The first update for today is some new pots. These were gifts from Blue Jay Bonsai, and they were birthday gifts. So here's the one pot, beautiful little pot, and here is the other. I'll show you them up close. Here's a look at the two pots up close. They're beautiful pots, nicely made, nice glazes on them. So I'm really looking forward to planting some small trees and maybe a little forest in this one. So thanks very much, Jay. I really appreciate it. I've got the new pots on the bonsai bench here. When I was visiting John, he also gave me some small pots he made. They're up on the top shelf here. So there's this green one, sort of a, I don't know what color that is, and a metallic one. So I've got lots of little pots to plant now. So that's awesome. My watering can here is getting some nice patina on it. It's looking really, really good. All my mini bonsai are doing very, very well. Yeah, I really like these small trees. And in this tray of sand, they're very easy to take care of. They don't dry out quickly, and they seem to stay really healthy. It's almost the end of August, and we've been having more like September weather in August. It's been quite cool and rainy. So I don't know what kind of September we'll get this year. We have had warm Septembers in the past, but so far it's quite cool, and today is drizzly, and yeah. Tonight we're going down to 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is getting quite cool for these tropical trees. The tropicals have been growing well this summer, but just not as vigorous as some previous warm summers. It's kind of been good growth, but not super strong growth. My elm tree that I defoliated midsummer is coming back into leaf, and the leaves are looking really healthy so far. It's not super vigorous, like the shoots haven't grown in really wild looking, but it's coming back into leaf, and I think, you know, if I protect it over the winter, it should leaf out fine in spring. I've noticed the cooler weather isn't so good for tropical trees, but the native trees really, really like it. You can see the nice growth on my thujas here. Yeah, some trees really like the cool, rainy weather. The tropicals not so much. Even though it's going to be quite cool tonight, I will leave the tropicals outside on the bench. They should be fine. They just won't be growing. They'll kind of go dormant. The last update for today is my 60th birthday Scots pine. So some of the older needles, they're turning brown and falling off now, which is quite normal this time of year. The tree did grow quite well in the summer, and it's full of really good looking buds all over it. So that's nice. I've been studying the tree over the summer, and I have a lot of branches I want to prune back. I'm not sure if I've got enough root growth to repot it this spring. So I'll have to see. I'll have to dig around in there. I will be doing a video on this tree this year, this fall, so we'll be looking at the styling of it and checking out that root structure to see if it has enough roots for repotting yet. I did quite a bit of work to my Kubu Island landscape today, both to the landscape and the tree, and I think both are improved. It'll be interesting to see how the trees respond to the heavy pruning. That'll be for a future video. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.